You know, I've been an educator for 23 years now, going on 24 next fall, and combine that with also being a coach. Everything from coaching football, which I'm currently the head football coach at Vermillion High School, to basketball, track and field, you name it, I've probably have coached it at some point. But for much of my life, there was always kind of a void. And about 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to join Leisure Outdoor Adventures and become a fishing guide. And that's honestly something that I've wanted to do ever since I was a little kid, coming up on vacations to Lake Vermilion and going out with many of the longtime fishing guides on this lake. And what I found was that I'm not only just teaching for 9 months in a classroom, my classroom moved to the boat. So really I have a full-time job now as an educator and a coach, whether it's kids that are 15, 16, 17 years old, or whether it's an adult or a little kid or a grandkid in the boat. Now I get a chance to be that teacher and a coach. And it's been something that's really been life fulfilling for me and has really kind of, I think, found maybe my true passion in life, which has allowed me to take coaching, teaching, and guiding and make them all into one passion. You know, I've been up on Lake Vermilion now for 5 years, and it's obviously it's my special place. I think everybody in life has a special place, and as I mentioned, you know, coming up here as a little kid and having that opportunity now to basically fulfill that dream and really soak in what the Northwoods and Lake Vermilion has to offer. But, you know, as a fishing guide every day, you have to look at it like you're walking into your classroom or your boat with a clean slate every single day with your customers, because you don't always know what level your customers are going to be at in terms of fishing ability, fishing knowledge. I get the people in the boat, I figure out what capabilities they have, what interests they have, you know, if they've fished before. I mean, even simple things like, have you ever used a spinning reel before? Have you ever fished with a slip bopper before? A jig. And so, you know, going back to being a teacher and educator, it's that platform. It's what you do to educate people and to set things up so they know exactly what the expectations are for the day, what I know their expectations are, and then being able to kind of fulfill those things. And so really what we're doing is we're setting goals. There you go. And we're finding ways to achieve those goals throughout the day. Find improvement, no different than what I would do with kids in a classroom or on the football field. If I can find ways to improve throughout the day, people feel like they've done something, they've accomplished something, and then when you throw the fish catches in, that's just the added bonus. You know, being a fishing guide for 15 years, you've seen really the evolution of technology in your boat, whether it's, you know, mapping, whether it's the boats in themselves, you know, now with forward-facing sonar and our electronics in our boats. And, you know, when people get in the boat, you have some people who are all about this new technology, and whether it's, you know, forward-facing sonar and we're pitching or casting at fish and knowing where they're at in the water column and how they're reacting to the baits. And some people are really into those things. And as a guide, I can accommodate that, and we have that technology in my boat, and people will, you know, sometimes just really gravitate towards that. But then sometimes on the other end of the spectrum, you know, when you take people, especially up here on Lake Vermilion, when they're all here for a week, what they want is to be able to go out and catch fish without that technology, and for you to educate them on how to do those things using techniques that maybe don't necessarily require some of this newer technology. And at the same time, when you're on a lake like Lake Vermilion, it's so beautiful that there are a lot of times people just want to sit back and unwind. What you don't want to do is stress. And I really try to make sure that there's no stress in the boat. We're laughing, we're having fun, we're telling funny stories, and sometimes you just kind of get lost in that experience, I think, and people just enjoy throwing their line out and chit-chatting with their fishing guide, and they're telling their stories and I'm telling my stories, and all of a sudden someone catches a fish and everything changes in the boat, and then we're high-fiving, we're taking pictures, and then you kind of go back to doing it all over again. And so, you know, it goes back to, I want to catch as many fish as I can. I mean, I'm competitive, and catching fish is obviously a big part of being a fishing guide, but at the same time, I want to make sure people have a great experience and that they're getting what they want out of the trip. They're going to be relaxed, they're enjoying themselves. As a fishing guide, I probably pride myself the most in walleye fishing, which is something that, you know, has been self-taught and through mentors and different things. But when you're on Lake Vermilion, you have the opportunity to fish for walleyes and smallmouth and crappies and panfish, and some people chase muskies and pike, and there's just an abundance of fish in this lake. And so for me, I really have allowed myself to become more of a multi-species fishing guide, which has allowed me then to adapt what I do in the boat with people. And when people get in the boat, we talked about goal setting, and for some people it's catching a meal, it's catching just a variety of fish. For some people it's catching a big fish. And so when I look at our guide trips and the way I attack them is I try to figure out what those goals are, and then we can try to tailor the guide trip around that. Or at the same time, if it's the middle of the summer and the walleye bite's going to be good from early in the morning till about a certain time in the morning where it shuts down, we can just change gears right now. And what that allows me to do then is just put the walleye rods away, get the bass rods out, get the panfish rods out, and then go do something else. Instead of, sometimes you just can't catch them, and sometimes the bite slows down, and you want people to have a great experience. And in the end, what I've learned the most about being a fishing guide in 15 years is people just want that rod to bend. And sometimes whether it's a smallmouth bass, whether it's a walleye, whether it's a crappie, that's what makes them smile, is when the rod's bending. And so for me, if I got to switch gears and go chase other fish throughout the day, that's what we're going to do. And more importantly, I'm going to find out what the people want to do, and then we're going to go out and we're going to attack the water, and we're going to do our best to do that.